Welcome to the Lean Lounge, a podcast brought to you by Lean Revisions. Please welcome your host, Jeff Gray.
Hello, everyone. How you doing? My name is Jeff Gray, and welcome to the Lean Lounge, where we talk everything lean under the lean umbrella, operational improvement, operations management, you name it, any way to help you understand your processes, procedures, fix business challenges. That's what we're all about here in the Lean Lounge. And today, I want to invite one of my special friends here, special guest, Mr. Steve Phinney. Steve and I, before I let him say anything, Steve and I have known each other for 20 years or something like that. And we go way back working together at a lot of organizations. We've traveled around the country quite a bit, worked on lots of different projects together under the Lean umbrella.
Steve is an ASQ certified Six Sigma Black Belt and an experienced internal operational and financial auditor. Steve has trained, coached, and mentored leaders, managers, and frontline associates to execute lean methodologies within a multitude of industries and operations. Steve takes pride in breaking down silos and connecting organizations to target the elimination of the hidden wastes directly impacting operating cost, revenue loss, market growth, innovation, employee satisfaction, and customer loyalty.
And Steve, welcome, my friend. How you doing today?
Excellent. Just enjoying a bonus, beautiful day up here in the beautiful Pacific Northwest.
You know, you've got a great background. You've traveled the planet. You've done all kinds of good stuff with good organizations and very smart. So I've been friends for the last 20-something years. So I wanted to talk today about, your lean journey. Give us a little bit of background. We saw just who you were, but even before then, you were in the military. You're ex-vet. Thank you for your service, my friend. Tell us, go back a little before I even met you and what you were doing and how did you get into lean? Because I don't think I've ever really asked you, when did you start? We kind of always talked about it, but what was your journey? How did you begin?
Yeah, well, ironically enough, my father was actually in quality control at Boeing, so you might have crossed paths towards your tail end of his retirement and your beginning out there. So, yeah, I never really thought about it because I've heard some of the horror stories up in Boeing, so some things don't change so much after all, do they? But anyway, so yeah, it was. I had some influence from that, and then when I was growing up, I like to do a lot of things like scuba diving, where you need to make sure you plan well and use checklists, which are one of my favorite things. And then went into the military and flew helicopters, and that's a big thing where you use checklists all the time for stuff that you use every day. It's the stuff you pray you never have to use that you have to memorize, and those are called emergency procedures. So yeah, big fan of checklists. Actually, I even have Atul's Gwande's book with the checklist manifesto. But yeah, always using checklists. But then I didn't plan on making a career in the military. So when I got out, I went to work at GE at their corporate leadership development program, which they called their internal audit staff / continuous improvement. So we go and find problems for people and then help them fix them instead of just point out their issues. And so what we do is we go on 4-month rotations around the world and do different kinds of initiatives. And mostly was, financial audit. And then my second rotation was with a company called Genstar. It was one of GE's businesses, that the big freight 20-foot, 40-foot trailer. Anyway, so we did a financial, and then we were deploying Six Sigma at the same time. So I got to do my first black belt project. And back in the day, we talk about the changes and things. We actually had a live statistician on our staff that would help us to do all of our statistical analysis because we hadn't had Minitab, hasn't hit the scene yet at that point. So, or it was just starting. But anyway, so a little different world, but it was something I really enjoyed. And then went off and did something else. And then after I left there, I started getting more focused on doing the Six Sigma. It was getting more accepted. And since we'd already been exposed, as you probably know, to Lean Six Sigma and had belts already they were interested in hiring us. And so we ended up getting into that, doing some other related things, process modeling, simulation and stuff. And then I went to work at good old WAMU. That's where we worked together. So yeah, it was an adventure ever since.
But I didn't know your background. Your dad worked at the Big B. That's where I started. I've known you since we worked at Washington Mutual, the bank that helped with the crash of 2008. And we were both black belts there, master black belts. And we just helped everybody process those bad loans much faster and more efficiently.
I got to help clean up the mess on the back end down at Bank of America and all that countrywide mess.
That's right.
Foreclosure review program going on. But let me go back to 1 second about when you started working at Boeing. So my dad was in quality control, and back then that's when they put the quality people in the corner, and it was kind of like auditors, right? Where they were helping, everybody's like, oh no. Whereas where you came in, it was more of a part of the strategic plan of the organization, and you're factored in with the leadership and everything else. Whereas back then, QC, quality control, was usually just its own little function silo somewhere in a corner somewhere that people didn't really want them to come visit, right?
Well, yeah, because you figure you put all your time and energy into it, and you try to do a good job, and then you have these people coming around telling you what you did wrong.
Right.
And it was more punitive.
That's what my dad did. You get pink slips on your desk if you didn't have everything dress. Right. And that's where some people, they push it a little bit too far.
Yeah, that's true too. Those are the folks who didn't get invited to the barbecues and stuff.
There you go. Exactly.
You never saw him at happy hour or on somebody's boat after work, on the lake. Yeah, no, you never saw them. I don't know where those people came from. So, you and I have done many, many projects. Washington Mutual, Chase, Amazon, Starbucks. God, the list goes on and on and on. So we've done some together, some engagements. We've taught master black belt classes, green belt, everything. We've done simulation. So Steve is really my go-to person for design of experiments, you guys, and the higher stuff. He just said about statisticians when we first started doing this. I had to go around with graph paper and calculators. And then we go to the statisticians and do this stuff. And Steve has that, he's a pilot, so he has that brain of very meticulous and paying attention.
Steve still had to take stats twice to pass it the first time.
And that's the real high-end stuff, that design, where you really want to make sure the rocket ship goes and deploys correctly, or the pacemaker works, that kind of stuff. So over the years, what have been some of the nuggets that you can share with our audience, good and bad, how to overcome challenges, transform organizations, learn more, always improve? What are some nuggets of knowledge?
I think the thing that I found that's really the most important was, so when we worked at that bank, we trained, we had an awareness course, which is an introduction to the organization, to the frontline folks that, have to do all the work in broken processes most of the time. And, we trained over 5,000 people, and I can't remember seeing a measurable result coming out of it, but I'm sure other than the head count, And then I went and worked at another bank in New York and helped them deploy an awareness course. We trained 5,000 people, and we got $100 million in saves in the first year off of it. So it was really empowering the people on the front lines where, I wish I had my little, my iceberg that people use a lot, but it shows, the tip of the iceberg is the leadership, and they know probably 7%, 10% of the problems, and then managers might know 30, 40%, but the frontline workers either are exposed to it or they know of it through their friends, 96% of the problems. So that's why I don't understand why more organizations don't empower them with just some basic tools and with some opportunities to go and make improvements, because that's where real cultural change comes from. We go in when we do, we'll lead maybe some Kaizens. That's the other thing, we'll do some quick Kaizens and show some successes so we can get buy-in from the leadership, who of course pays for everything. But if we can get the people down on the ground and get their input, they get so much more buy-in. And anyway, that's, I think, one of the best things I've learned.
Yeah, I think you're right. I was just talking to some clients yesterday and about doing some work with them. And they said, 6-8 years ago, they tried something similar and it failed. And that was, before COVID and all that. And they said they didn't want to have that failure again. So my question to leadership, because it was the same leaders, I said, so what happened? And a lot of them blamed the people and not their leadership skills and their communication and their empowerment and stuff like that. And nobody bought in. So, that's why it didn't take hold, because it was mandated. Here, we're going to slap this on to everybody. We don't know why, how to do it, whatever. That's not how you do this. Mm-hmm. You empower your people. Yeah, leadership has to have the vision, but it has to go down and flow down. And the bigger the organization, the bigger the challenge is if you don't do it right. It's not rocket science. It's, communication, it's leadership, it's stakeholder management. It's, now, like you said, the basic tools. Right. Start there.
If Deming heard that manager say that it was the people, Deming would have slapped the heck out of him. Right?
Yeah.
That's one of the best results that I didn't really start measuring it first when we started doing these kinds of projects, because we're looking at financials and hard saves, but employee turnover. I was at places where it was 35% a year, or at another fulfillment place where they were having 40% a week turnover. And you start making the world, okay for them to live in, then the turnover tends to go down quite a bit.
Yeah. I had a client a couple of years ago. They had 100% turnover within a year, 100%. And by the time we were there for about 6 months and re-engineered a lot of stuff, they reduced that to like 30%. And then you have to get like optimizing, really getting the right people in the right spot. But, almost 70% of your workforce is now staying there because of the changes in the empowerment and, improving things. That's, how much cost the poor quality that is, to go out and search for people, bring them on, onboard them, train them, and then they quit.
It's just like a sales, when you hook a customer and then you just let them go and start looking for another one rather than keeping the ones you got. Right. Yeah. That was the big thing I couldn't understand about the Army. I think they made us upset enough to go out and fight wars, but they didn't treat you well enough to keep you and retain you. And so we were constantly retraining new people. So
yeah.
But anyway, that was Deming's big thing. Management is responsible for processes that their employees can do their jobs in, and so they can't pass the buck on to the people if they don't. 10% of the time or so, it's the people problem, right?
Sure. But not all the time. So you have to look at the systems and everything. Yeah.
Sure. The culture.
Nice.
One more thing I found also is when I look at a potential client, I'll go out and look up customer stats, like on Google or on some other program, and then I'll go to Glassdoor and compare that to the employee satisfaction. And there's almost always a correlation between the low customer satisfaction and the low employee satisfaction on Glassdoor. And so it's kind of, when you go to them and they're asking you questions and you start pointing this stuff out, they're like, no, okay.
Yeah, I haven't done that lately. I always look at the stock performance to see, where they're at. I look at leadership, what their background is, because some clients who call you, they're not ready. And you can do a little coaching up front before, you dive in. Others I look and go, hey, these guys are ready. They'll call me. Hey, can you be here Monday? They're ready to roll. And they have their vision and their plan.
Right.
I just don't have the time to do it or whatever. So, and it's just learning. It's continuous learning. And if you're not doing it, your competitors are.
Yep. And they're probably not on this continent in some cases, a lot of cases.
Yeah. I've been getting a lot of calls from overseas lately, more than usual, with a lot of changes and competition. The globe's getting smaller. People are getting more educated, and there's so much innovation going on.
Has to be. I mean, look at it. We went through COVID, and look at how that has affected the supply chain. And now we're going through. We're starting to recover the supply chain from COVID, and now we're going through hyperinflation, and all the supplies are gone now. So it's a whole different supply chain issue than what it was before. So.
Right. And people just play whack-a-mole a lot of times. They don't look at the whole system. Where's it costing? I was looking at more revenue. Let's look at doing what we have, doing it better. And sometimes you have to contract and reorganize, review, revise, optimize. That's our, our tagline, really, because that's what you need to do sometimes. Just take a step back. That's like we do when we go into clients. We look around, review, because they're living in it. So, that's the way I like to look at things too. So
I think one of the big issues also is that if it's a publicly traded company, CEO tenures average between 2 to 3 years, and so they're being judged on next quarter's results.
yeah,
Instead of, hey, what if I invest this money into this program that's going to save a lot of money? Well, it's probably going to be my successor that reap all the credit, and but
yeah. And I find a lot of the younger 40, 45, 50-year-old, maybe 35-year-old leaders, current and upcoming future leaders, have a much bigger open mind to the changing environment and work environment. I remember when I was 18, I can't even say it on a nice podcast.
it was like when I was in the military. That's what you were going through. The same thing, right?
I was dealing with it in corporate, and you were dealing in the military. But there was no holds bar.
You're getting ex-military people that were running that organization too. So
yeah, oh yeah. You're right. Now I remember there's a couple of them. Yeah, exactly. Well, awesome, man. I'm gonna have to have you in the studio next time. And this is just our introduction. You're going to be a guest quite a bit because we work together and partner together, and we have a lot of information to share with our audience. I'll just go back 15 years ago. Steve and I started doing training, SixSigmaTV.net. Right after we got laid off from that bank, we were going to have an internet program on doing training and stuff. And then we started doing a couple videos. We started getting hired, and it kind of just fell apart because we were all over the planet. In that crisis, we were coming out of a crisis. We got laid off in 2009, and we started teaching this stuff on the web, and we were getting calls left and right. So that picture you saw of Steve and me in the hospital, that was like 2010, was it, or 2009?
Yeah, 10 and 11.
Yeah, we were over at a big hospital over here in this greater Seattle area, and re-engineered all kinds of systems in there and patient experience. And
one of the biggest things I learned on that is why all the daytime soap operas are based on hospitals.
yeah. Peyton Place.
Right. Now, but the CEO gave us credit for changing the culture, and I think it was because we made those videos so that the frontline folks could read it and not say, they could watch those videos and take that little exam and get that cool certificate at the end. And the CEO gave us credit for changing the culture, so that was pretty cool. But one thing I'm really excited about is when you start getting people to ask questions or send in projects for us to start helping them out with, maybe analyze some data and stuff with them. So I think that's a great idea, and I look forward to when you guys start doing that and being able to help out if you want on some of the analysis and stuff as well.
Yeah. So like the lunch and learn stuff that we did, or you led at WAMU. Yeah. Thank you, my friend, for jumping on here and sharing some nuggets with the audience here.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. I enjoyed it. It's a great chat.
Definitely. All right. And everybody out there, look for us on your podcast, anywhere you get podcasts. Go to our website, leanrevisions.com. You'll probably see his picture out there too, and some of the projects and the templates and stuff and downloads and some of those nuggets we already have out there. So until next time, we'll see you soon. Thank you for tuning into the Lean Lounge. Thank you, my friend.
For more information on today's show, visit leanrevisions.com. This podcast is hosted by Jeff Gray, produced and edited by Make Your Day Richer. Special thanks to our studio sponsor. Promotional consideration paid for by the following.